Good evening, folks. It's so good to see everybody. Hey, I took a break for about a couple of months doing a couple of very large media projects that took all of my inches to get them done, but we're done now. So tonight I have Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate, joining us. But before I talk about Andrew, and I'm very excited to get to that, wanted to let you know what we're going to talk about tonight. So tonight, affordability real talk, right? Not just platitudes and pie in the sky policies, but what will really move the needle? What organizations are moving the needle? What politicians will move the needle? All of the things that are solutions that actually work in real life and every day. So that's why I'm thrilled to have Andrew Yang. So I'll go ahead and introduce him. So Andrew Yang, so excited. He is former presidential candidate from Andrew 2020.
Yeah, that's right.
From 2020, the 2020 cycle. What caught my eye about Andrew, folks, in 2020, when I was running my race, my congressional race, was UBI, Universal Basic Income, because I'm a fan, and I think there's going to be a time and a place for it. And we just have to figure out how it works with the rest of the ecosystem. But the great thing about Andrew is he has this very rich education and combination of tech solutions background. He's the current CEO of Noble Mobile. Full disclosure, I'm a fan. I use it for all my political work. And the reason I wanted to have him on is that I think Andrew and his team have created solutions not unlike Mark Cuban has for pharmaceuticals. So with that, I'm going to welcome Andrew Yang. So good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Marie. Such a pleasure. I didn't realize that you'd been tied up in some major projects, so excited to see what you've been working on. But thrilled to be here with you tonight.
Well, we'll see how this all pans out. It's been a little squirrely. So I wrote a book over the I published a book last year with some good friends at Kohler, and this year I did my first. That was my second book. This is my third book coming up, and we'll see that in 2027. And it's a work of fiction, so it's a legal thriller. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But so first and foremost, Andrew, I I think the word and phrase of the hour is AI, right? So artificial intelligence, our job market, we're seeing it, right? Like it's real now. It's very tangible to us what's going on with AI. Now, should we fault any clear proportion of the job market that we're losing with AI, but clearly it has an effect. So I'd love for you to talk broadly about AI, its real effect, and if there's any quantification of that, we'd really appreciate that, and talk kind of broad strokes.
Of course, Marie, I've been passionate about this since 2018, 2019, 2020. I am friendly with many Silicon Valley types who were totally confident that AI was going to come down the pike and automate away a very significant proportion of American jobs. The example I used all the time on the trail was call center workers, which most people can understand. There are hundreds of thousands of call center workers, and AI can do that job. Now, that's one that we can all see. The other one I talked about on the trail a lot was driving, truck driving in particular, Uber drivers. There are millions of Americans who drive for a living.
Mhm.
What I did not forecast in 2020 was that white collar work would actually be the first category of jobs that's really going to be impacted en masse. And our conversation is very, very timely because AI um, agents have just been released that can surpass the work of humans in financial, legal, marketing, and programming. And so this is only a 2 week old development where there's been a lot of hype around AI, a lot of buildup. And then when these agents hit the marketplace on January 30th, there was a tremor in the stock market. And I'm not someone who likens the stock market to the economy because the stock market's just values, and like the top handful of Americans own most of the stock. But when the stock market has a massive reaction to something, it's important. And what happened was software companies, including giants like Salesforce and Microsoft, lost billions and billions of dollars worth of value the next 24 hours because people said to themselves, wait a minute, if AI can code anything under the sun for me, why am I going to pay Salesforce or these other enterprise software companies millions of dollars on a per employee basis when I can customize software to my own needs? And we're still trying to figure out what the heck that's going to mean. But the reality is that millions of American white collar workers are going to lose their jobs in the coming weeks and months. I was confident of this back in 2020. I'm 100% confident of it now. And it pains me to say this. But I talk to various CEOs and they tell me confidentially they're going to fire thousands and thousands of their workers. For the most part, they're in the process of doing so. I talked to a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company who said they're firing thousands of workers. I then went online to say, have they announced it? They have not. There's going to be a gutting of offices around the country. The way I try and analogize it is that if you imagine factories in the 80s and 90s when robots and machines started showing up and it replaced the manufacturing workers, the same thing's happening right now with knowledge workers. The first population that's feeling the brunt of it is college grads who aren't getting hired. And if you look at the numbers there, the proportion of college seniors that had a job offer has already plummeted. And you're seeing an unemployment rate among college graduates that's at parity with non-college graduates, which is the first time that's ever happened. And unfortunately, that's going to get much, much worse. I'm energized about this because this is happening right now. And I wish that we were doing many, many more dramatic things, including something like a universal basic income. By the way, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, which is the company behind these new agents, has been raising his hand to the press and saying, hey, we're going to automate away 50% of entry level white collar jobs in the next 5 years and unemployment's going to spike. And we should listen to him. And then the next thing he said is, you should tax us, the AI companies, and start distributing the gains. We should listen to him again. Unfortunately, we have an administration that's not responding to this. I mean, there are a lot of news items out there. To me, this is the story. The gutting of white collar work is the story because it's going to have the broadest social and economic effects. It's going to be very, very bad for millions of Americans. And I wish we had done more. Like there are times I talk to my team, I wish we had done more in 2020, though I don't know what more we could have done because, I don't think that, looking back on it, like I don't think that the Democratic Party was ready for what was to come.
Well, it was prescient, right? What you said. It was very interesting because the first time I learned of universal basic income was probably 2016. I started reading about it. My challenge was that sounds interesting. How do we increment it? How do we fit it into welfare, SNAP, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid? How does it fit with all of the public social services, right? How does that work? It can be done. I'm a former management consultant. You and I understand how that can be done. It's just a lot, right? And it would have to be phased in and all the things. But taking it back to unemployment, help me understand some of the bridges and the channels we use to fix unemployment. Because now there's just jobs that are not necessary anymore, right? There's roles and jobs in many companies that aren't as necessary. And as upsetting as that is, I'm just a big fan of reality, right? So I live in the real world. My son is going through this right now. He's a 20 something, and he just got his job was taken away to AI. He works in politics, and um and my daughter last year had a similar problem. So tell us what companies, public, private partnerships could do. Some solutions.
Well, right now, major companies are grappling with what to do with their existing workers. Where imagine if you were the CEO of a company. I mean, I don't want to name names. I do talk to some of these folks. But let's say it's a consumer company.
Yeah.
You have a very large customer service staff, and your team comes to you and says, "Hey, we can replace 5,000 workers with AI and just have a lean, mean team of 500 plus the AI. We'd save a ton of money. Our competitors are doing this. We should do this." And that if you're in that situation, what do you do? And if you do something, do you announce it? Do you come clean? There are various companies that are making large layoff announcements and then they're inserting AI into the press release. And I've seen people say that's not actually AI. There are other reasons you overhired, et cetera, et cetera. And it's hard to parse out a corporate statement because, for example, Verizon fired 13,000 people. In October, Amazon said they're laying off 16,000. Amazon said it was AI. Verizon sort of hinted at it. Now you don't know what's going on in the guts of these companies, but the biggest fork in the road is number one, what do these companies decide to do with these workers? And unfortunately, right now they're deciding to jettison very large numbers of them. And then the second thing is, what do they communicate to the market or to public officials? And there are more and more folks, especially really in the last 2 weeks. I mean, this is like a right now story.
Right.
There are folks who are going to public officials saying, we have to do something or you have to do something. The tough part is that every company that's publicly traded finds itself in a bind because if they were to do something, let's say they were to decide to eschew adopting AI in that department, their stock would take a beating eventually. And the executives in question, and as you as a consultant know this, like the executives in question are concerned about their own jobs.
Yeah.
That they would say, you know what, if I don't make this move. So what I ask corporate leaders to do is to at least come clean. Just say, look, we are doing this, and our hands are somewhat tied. And if we're going to do something for these workers, it needs to be public-private and very significant in scale.
Right. And that's the rub, right? So folks, we are very clear on the problem, right? That AI is affecting all industries, not just white collar, but blue collar jobs, all of the things, right? Um, in terms of policy and legislation, um, I think a big job production program would solve that. So if we look back to FDR days, right? And FDR came in and said, I'm going to create all these public works jobs. It worked pretty well. We actually need new infrastructure, and there's money out there for infrastructure and all the things. So that's one idea, that and public and private can work together on infrastructure jobs and creating what would be interesting to me, and I'd love for you to vamp something on this, Andrew, is guess what? Climate issues have not gone away, even though this administration is pretending they've gone away, right? So, what if we had a conservation corps of everything from, because that is inclusive of engineers, scientists, day workers, wage workers, high end tech workers, all the things, right? So, if we were to develop a modern day public works program, that's a public-private program that could work, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the sort of thing we should be doing, Marie. And we have a massive need and shortage of electricians and technical
Yeah.
teams to go in and retrofit buildings, even to equip them with solar panels and windows that don't let heat escape, that are more energy efficient. There are so many things that we could and should be doing, and to get there, you would need a government that decided, you know what, we're going to try and solve major problems and employ large numbers of people at the same time and train people for these roles because you have a lot of folks who are short on the technical skills. I mean, the major mismatch in American life right now is that you're going to have an overabundance of college grads and law school grads and white collar workers and not a market need for them. And that breaks my heart because, it's like a lot of these kids, students were sold a bill of goods, and that makes me sad. Um, and then at the same time, you have a real shortage of folks with certain technical skills that aren't necessarily not. I'm not talking about you know uh, coding or software, those type of technical skills, which unfortunately are also going to be
To AI.
eviscerated in terms of market need.
Yeah.
And you have very, very accomplished coders saying, "I am now obsolete. I just saw it, and I'm shaken by it." Now, that senior coder who's making that announcement online is probably a millionaire, honestly, because if you've been in Silicon Valley for X years, you've probably made enough money where you're going to be fine.
Right.
It's really the folks that were coming out of school, and I do talk to professors who have computer science graduates who can't get jobs for the first time in their career. So that's not what I mean by technical. What I mean by technical is uh, is folks who can walk into an old building and like rip out the old wiring
Right.
and try and
Right.
install newer wiring. So it's technical training, apprenticeship, vocational, and there's a massive shortage of that throughout the
Yes.
U.S. So,
Yes.
so that would be a move that you could make, but even if you were to do everything right, it would take years for it to bear fruit, and
Yeah.
you would have a generation that wasn't trained for that sort of work. That often has debt, school loans that aren't being forgiven.
Right. And we've been I'm forever the optimist. So every decade that we have a huge problem like this, in the late 70s to early 90s, we lost all these manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing went overseas. And we lost it to automation for sure, as you said. We did figure it out. We didn't figure out how to replace jobs. So we just didn't plan for this. So I'll just say we should have listened to you and folks like you a little bit more in 2020, because here we are 6 years later and we don't have a plan. Right. So this is not necessarily even a party based thing. I will just say that while the Republicans don't want to do it and are ignoring the problem, they say there is no problem, which is not accurate. My brethren in the Democratic Party haven't done anything about it. So I think it does take I talked about a crop of new guard candidates that are very important. We need not just younger people, but people that think differently going into politics, that they're solution driven and aren't afraid to ruffle feathers. So I'm hoping that whether it is a conservation corps of engineers and all types of workers, it is a climate group, it is whatever that both private sector and as well as government comes together. I want to move over to the role of UBI moving forward. We've identified there's going to be a problem. Technology is going to take over more and more. Hopefully we swallow it and embed it in a way where it's not as painful. But um, how do you see UBI, Universal Basic Income, for those that are just coming on? How do you see that developing in the coming decades?
I think the recognition of the need for it's going to be sky high. If you look at the numbers around, for example, regulation of AI, and this is another mismatch. 80% of Americans want more regulation of AI, and a majority think that it's going to impact their job security, and they're right. But then you look at our political class, and the Trump administration just cheerleads the data centers and AI and says it's necessary for um, beating China. And then some Democrats are in the same camp because uh, their economic numbers are also contingent upon the data centers being built and the rest of it. So there's a real chasm between what most Americans want on this and what both parties are delivering.
Hmm.
And there are going to be figures that end up trying to address this by saying, look, like 80% of Americans want more regulation of AI. 72% of Americans want universal basic income or some version of it.
Right.
And the question is, how do we get there?
Hmm.
But I think it's common sense at this point. You know what I mean? Like when I was running in 2020,
Yeah.
like folks thought I was the magical Asian man from the future who wanted to give everyone money, and it was like very futuristic. And now we're here, and um, yeah, we're gonna have to think a lot bigger. One of the major missed opportunities of this past number of years was that the Democrats didn't have a primary in 2024, because if they had, this would have been one of the major issues, I would think.
I think so too.
Yeah, because if you had a bunch of candidates, then they like at that point, ChatGPT would already been adopted by tens of millions of people, and the AI companies were going full bore. So if you'd had a primary, then candidates would have said, "Hey guys, what are we going to do about this?" And then maybe we'd
Right.
have more things on the table.
I agree. I wish we had it for many reasons. Um, so tell us more, and then I do want to talk about your newest project, Noble Mobile, but um, tell us more about the good guys out there, and I'll define that for you. So, our tech entrepreneurs like you and Mark Cuban, great examples of people that are addressing affordability in an everyday kind of way. So, Mark, is it 3 or 4 years ago he started it now, where
Yeah.
he's bringing the cost of drugs down because he's negotiating outside the country, bringing them in, and a bunch of different cost saving measures. You have addressed cell phone usage. Are there others out there that you feel like really get it? They're the good guys that are helping with affordability.
Well, first, let me acknowledge that it's been a very disappointing time for Silicon Valley, for techies. Like, there were a lot of folks who saw the scope of the problems and were willing to consider adopting very, very big, broad solutions, even when I was running for president. And a lot of those folks have now just adopted very strict business concerns and said, you know what, I'm just going to get in good with this administration. I'm going to, run up our stock price and let the rest sort it out. And that is a real failing of leadership. Like, we could use much more leadership from the tech sector, in my view. And you referenced me and Mark Cuban as examples of people who are trying to do wholesome things. I mean, I was certainly inspired by cost plus drugs.
Yeah.
But let me be the first to say that you need government to have its act together to have a shot at addressing these problems because they're so big. And to me, a commercial solution like what Mark's doing or what I'm doing is something of like a fallback compromise measure.
Yeah.
Because I'll just speak for myself. It's like, look, I've been trying to get things done through policy, and I'm still trying to get things done through policy. But like, I'm realistic where this administration's not going to like do a lot of the
No, ma'am.
that
No,
I
ma'am.
want to see happen. And I'm not willing to wait. So, is there something I can do to attack the cost structure of the average American household? And so, if you look at the average, like, my thesis is that poverty is eminently solvable. Americans should have more money. GDP right now is maybe $84,000 per capita. And AI is going to increase that number to over 100,000. And so, at what point, if you have GDP at that level, do you start distributing the gains more broadly? And in my opinion, it's yesterday. It's like the only opportunity or a silver lining in this era is that you might be able to transition from the scarcity economy that we're all programmed with to an abundance economy where you assume like there's more than enough to go around. And I'm going to suggest 100,000 ahead is enough to go around. So, on the path to abundance, one of the things that you should be doing is trying to get down the costs of a decent life in America. And if you look at the average household costs, this is the list.
Right.
Probably not shocking to anyone, but it goes number one, housing; number two, healthcare; number three, education; number four, food; number five, fuel, including heating; number six, transportation; number seven, media, entertainment, leisure; and then number eight is uh, connectivity or data. What Hassan Minhaj calls our rectangle of sadness. Um, and so the average American spending $83 a month on our wireless bill, and I'm going to out myself, Marie. I was spending $150 a month on
Same
Verizon.
as same. Yeah.
Same. Wow, look at this!
Yeah.
How you made me feel so much better, Marie, because I'm a little bit ashamed now.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew Yang, 150 a month. Average American, $83 a month. Average European, $35 a month for the same stuff.
Yeah.
And so, if you look at that $48 a month delta times the hundreds of millions of us that have cell phone plans, times 12 months, you have $100 billion a year in extra spend on wireless connectivity relative to other industrialized countries. 100 billion a year, and of that 100 billion a year, 11 billion is going to Verizon shareholders every year in the form of dividends. They
Yeah.
pay a 6.5% dividend. 7 billion is going to AT&T shareholders. So that gets you 18 of the 20 immediately. And then you have another 5 to 10 billion in marketing spend. If you wanted to get aggressive, you can include store leases, like you do a lot of things. But you can see that there's massive bloat. And that if we could get your cell phone bill in half, we would save you about $500 a year times all the years you're going to be a customer. Might be 20 to $30,000, and then you put an interest rate on that and compound it, you wind up with 40 to $60,000. So the average American is giving Verizon or AT&T a down payment on their own retirement over the course of our lives.
Right.
We're donating a car to our wireless provider. So what we've done with Noble Mobile is we've licensed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of data from T-Mobile,
Mhm.
and made it available to Americans at our cost. It's essentially cost plus data. where the average Noble user spends $42 a month on their wireless, which is about half the national average.
Mhm.
And because we return any money for unused data to you at the end of the month, um, you have an incentive to use your rectangle of sadness a little bit less. So the average American on Noble uses 17% less screen time after they join, because we just tend to like money. And so if you're paying me to use my phone a little bit less, I doom scroll a little bit less. I don't pick up my phone when I'm at dinner with friends. So Noble Mobile, our goal is to cut billions of dollars out of this $100 billion worth of bloat and return it to the American people in the form of savings and also incentives to look up and hopefully get a better relationship with your phone.
Yeah, and what I like about that model so much is that you and the customer, meaning Noble Mobile, and you are partners, right? We're solving this affordability problem together. And you're having to have thinner margins as a business person. And then that person is agreeing to, take better care of their health, right? So,
Our
um,
margins are very thin, and I'm going to
yeah.
do something very dramatic now. As like,
Ooh,
as the magical Asian man from the future. Anyone on this call who sees this, if you go to noblemobile.com/yang, you can get 3 months for free. And that is like $250 worth of data for the average American household. But you're right, Marie. The truth is, we're accepting lower margins. We are,
yeah,
because because I'm here to try and get more money into your pockets, and it turns out you can run a fine business,
right.
charging something reasonable. I do want to push on a point that I experienced, and you probably experienced too. If you're an American and you traveled abroad to, let's say, Europe,
Mhm.
Verizon charges you $10 a day. AT&T charges you $12 a day. You could come home with a cell phone bill that's like, $100, $200 on top of a domestic bill that they don't discount, even though you didn't use any data because you were away. I had, and again, I'm ashamed of this, but I'm not alone. I had a $500 Verizon bill the month I went to Europe. Uh, and that's because they charged me $10 a day and I was away, so it added up to like $500. And that's insane. Like the carriers are only charging, they're being charged $2 a day to put you on a foreign carrier's network. And so they're upcharging you by 400% or 500%, just to pad their margins. There's so much price gouging going on in the wireless industry. It's nuts. So with Noble, we charge you $5 a day when you're abroad, and we cap it at 10 days per billing cycle. And then we discount your domestic data. So that European vacation that month, you might end up paying like $80 in total,
Right.
for the month, instead of like hundreds of dollars. If you just adopt sensible business practices, you can reduce the average American cell phone bill by 50% or more.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Um, one of the reasons I desperately wanted to talk about AI. You've done a great job of kind of outlining the contours and some of the solutions. Um, how can we pressure as American citizens and American consumers? How do we pressure CEOs and the C-suite to do more of the cost plus Mark Cuban model, the Noble Mobile Andrew Yang model, and whoever else is doing it? How do we put pressure on them, Andrew? Everybody on this call wants to know, like, how do we pressure these guys to do the right thing and have a little less margin in their life, a little less greed, and make life a little more affordable? Like, how do we do that?
The truth is, Marie, a lot of this is baked into the system if you're a publicly traded company. Let's say you're Verizon, you have a stock, and you have to reward shareholders somehow.
Yeah.
And so the two ways you can reward shareholders are: one, demonstrate that your profits are growing, your revenue are growing, which is tough, honestly, in a saturated marketplace where everyone has a, a wireless plan. So your choice really then is to raise prices, is number one, if everyone has a cell phone plan, or number two, it's to cut costs, which means cutting headcount. So it's very, very hard for a publicly traded company to cut its own margins. If you look at a company like Cost Plus Drugs, it's a private company, and Mark started it.
Yeah.
Mark, like, I don't need crazy margins. We're doing the exact same thing with Noble Mobile. And one
Right.
of the things I will share with you, Marie, is that um, when raising money for Noble Mobile, I was pretty explicit. I was like, "Look, guys, we're going to build a fine business. We're not going to
Not
like
going to be a unicorn. You're not going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
one of
We're
them.
not going to gouge anyone. We're going to be like
Yeah.
the good guys of it. And conventional investors weren't that excited. Honestly, I had one investor say something that haunted me, but I'll share it with you all. Um, he said, "Andrew, love you, want to back you. If you start anything with AI in the name, we will invest right now." And I was like, "That is not what I'm trying to do."
Right. It's
You know,
not the
like,
objective.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to save people money on their cell phone bills.
Yeah.
But because I'm kind of a stubborn soul, I actually took the reluctance of that VC and other VCs as a good sign because I'm like, okay, I get it. Folks aren't going to invest in this to try and maximize their returns. This is going to be values based business, and I'm going to have to try and find the right investors. So the truth of it, Marie, is when you say, "Hey, how do we put pressure on companies to do the right things and not be as exploitative?" Um, I would try and find a business that's non-public, because if it's a publicly traded company, it has a growth imperative, and it's left with very little choice, or else the managers are going to lose their jobs.
Well, I have a little ad. I'll build on your note there. The note is, folks, is buy from private companies, right? Make companies that are doing the right thing or that are not publicly traded, make them profitable. And reward them for doing good things. The more we reward those that are doing the right thing, guess what? The folks that are competitive with them in the publicly traded space are going to see it. So, folks, buy from private companies, small companies, mom and pops, all the things. And that people, I can't say this enough, is that when a company partners with you and you feel partnered with and you're solving an affordability problem together, that's the company you want to be with. So I have one final question. We're heading towards the end here, Andrew.
Oh
And
no, I'm enjoying this so much, Marie. I want to, it's
well, if
all
you
right.
have time, actually, I lied. I have two. Okay. So I have one more financial question. So, um, what if there was a huge VC and PE and maybe angel investor network, combination of all those types of money people, right? That where they decided, you know what, this affordability thing isn't going to go away. Our current administration is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and fully incompetent and malignant and maniacal, right? Let's just be honest about what they are. The Trump administration is, and they're beyond corrupt. There's a word I keep looking for, this new synonym for beyond corrupt. I haven't found it yet, but they're the most corrupt administration ever. So put that aside. And because you always have to plan ahead. So we have to wait till 2028 to have a decent partner in DC. So what if there was this massive board of, financiers, whether it was, private equity, VC, angel network, whatever it is, that planned for this objective, and there was like a council. And what if Andrew was on it? And you built a fund for affordability solutions for private companies that thought the way that you and Mark did. Like, what if you did that?
Yeah,
Go.
that dream. I would love nothing more than to take a shot at each of these in turn. I and you got to start with the biggest. I mean, housing is the biggest problem,
Yeah.
because no one can afford to buy a home. The average age of a first time home buyer now is 40, which is insane.
Right.
I mean, you should. They're called starter homes for a reason. I mean, you're supposed to
Yep.
be like, kind of like starting out. Not. I mean, no offense. I mean, I'm past 40, but you guys know what I mean. Like 40 is too
Yeah.
old.
Yeah. No, it's
So
Godspeed. Yeah.
so we need to take a shot at building many, many more housing units, and I'm thrilled that folks have, um, wised up to the fact that, we have all um, red tape restrictions on building housing that's affordable, whether it's in, a blue area or red area, urban area, rural area, like whatever. We just need to build more housing, and a lot of folks who are supposedly liberal have been tacitly approving restrictions on building affordable housing in their neighborhoods because they would bring the value of their home down. And as soon as they're in a neighborhood, they don't want it to change. Human nature, but not great.
Yeah.
It's like
No.
bad. It's like bad on policy. So I would love to see what can be done about building many, many more affordable housing units. Healthcare, for sure. What Mark is doing with generic drugs. is a dream. There is so much bloat in the healthcare sector, and this
Uh,
is one of the tensions too that's happening. Marie, is that if you look at the job reports of the past 13 months, you'll see that all of the jobs that have been created have essentially been in the healthcare sector.
right,
And we have an aging population, so you can kind of see it's like, okay, we need folks to be employed. But then one person's job is like an in a is the another cost,
right,
really. That like as a society, we're spending 18, 19% of GDP on healthcare. And we're not getting great results.
right.
But there are a lot of jobs that aren't getting baked in there, and a lot of the folks that are even on this call who are white collar workers are thinking to themselves, okay, let's say I believe Yang, and you should believe me, that AI is coming and it's going to blow up a lot of white collar jobs, which it is.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Where do I go? And the first thing you might think is healthcare, because it's tougher to automate, which it is, by the way, and
Yeah.
it's highly regulated and everything else. But um, one of the big opportunities is to try and bring down costs in the sector, and because you have publicly traded insurance companies and device companies and the rest of it, you know what they do every quarter? They have to show growth. So, like, how do you show growth in the
I,
sector? Again,
teacher,
it's
I
like,
have an answer. Teacher, I have an answer. It's called Medicare for All.
yeah,
You take the back office. So there's 7 major insurance carriers. You take their back office, you make it our current Medicare system. You
yeah.
have one universal back office now. You still have all the healthcare providers and all the hospitals, all the clinics, all the everything, right? If we can get rid of insurance companies, and by the way, the system would absorb all those employees. So it's a bunch of hoo-ha when people say that those 2 million employees would lose their jobs. They wouldn't. They would get absorbed into the system quite readily. And there probably would be more jobs because there's going to have to be a watchdog group and all the things, right? So for me, it's, Medicare for All is one of those solutions. And there's going to have to be some companies that'll migrate them over, right? So
I'm I'm
that's
I'm
it.
pro single payer healthcare, Medicare for all, public option like that. There's no other way. I mean, you can
No,
see
it's
what,
like UBI, right? It's going to come, babies. It's going to come. I'm like,
God
it is.
willing. Because you have all again these industry players who are like, oh, I have to make more money, I have to show growth for my stock to grow.
Yeah.
So what do? They raise prices all the time. I mean, one of my jokes is that the note that no American has ever received from their insurance company. Great news, rates are lower this year. Like, no one has ever gotten that
Yeah.
note. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
It's
and so
sick.
at some point, now, there's gonna be a flight to safety, and, like, we're gonna need, folks taking care of, aging Americans. So number 2 is healthcare, number 3 is education, which is own ball of wax, and it does pain me that people are, going to be graduating from schools and not have, the jobs that, they would have expected. So going down the list, anything we can do to lighten, and those are, by the way, the big three by dollar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's housing, healthcare, education, and so if there are ways to reduce the costs of any of those three, that's a dream. When I saw what Mark did with cost plus drugs, I reached out to him. He and I are friendly, or friends, and I said, "Congratulations, Mark! It's freaking awesome! Like we should be
Yeah.
doing more like that." And then I set about thinking, like, is there anything I could tackle? And I landed on wireless. Very excited to be following in his footsteps.
So that Money Network, it's 7:39 Chicago time on February 11th. So I'll check back on June 11th and see how you're doing on that board. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'd love nothing more. I mean, shoot, all we need is a third company. And my joke is that three makes the movement. So,
Yeah.
Mark, me, and then we need one other person tackling. My
See,
preference would be if they were tackling housing.
I know that would be amazing. And what's frightening is that when you have people like Pulte in the White House, that company's been, I mean, I hate to be mean, and I'll just call him out. He's been chiseling people for 7 decades, his whole family. So, I don't
I'm
have hope for the housing markets.
I'm actually going to throw out a housing solution, and it's not a solution. It's like a helpful
Yeah.
measure. It's a company called Pad Split. And you can look it up, padsplit.com. What it is just renting a spare bedroom. And because the folks who tend to rent a spare bedroom, most of the time are folks who are doing service jobs.
Yeah.
So it's a win in both directions. You can build,
Yeah.
like, you don't have to build affordable housing. It's like an immediate step. So again, not a cure all
Yeah.
in the But if you have a bedroom and you want to rent it, check out Pad Split. And if you need a bedroom, you can check out Pad Split. So, like that, again, let me emphasize that I'm not someone who thinks that commercial solutions work for all these things.
No.
Um, but
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
admire the folks who are at least taking shots at like improving the situation marginally. Most people who know me know I want very dramatic steps to be taken.
Okay.
It's I do think we should be giving money quickly and broadly, especially now that AI is here in force.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that would and someone much smarter than me will have a better idea than that money board, but with the objective of addressing affordability. But someone's got to do something dramatic like that, in addition to the jobs program we talked in the first 15 minutes. But I do want to get to your book. Throw that sucker right up for me, dude. Show me your book.
Oh, well, thank you. So
Yeah,
this is my shot at doing something kind of positive, because I knew this was going to be a grim time. It's called "Hey Yang, Where's My $1,000?" And other true stories of staggering depths. The alternate title was "Hey, Am I Racist or Are You Andrew Yang?" Uh, which I have also been asked. But it's like personal accounts of running for president and
nice.
other stories of the last number of years. So, like if you just want something that like I think is like a positive read, you can check it
Sure.
out. But I'm very, very um, uh, I'm very, very sad about what we're going through as a country, and unfortunately, I do think this AI buzzsaw is coming into being
Yeah.
literally as we speak.
I'm disappointed in all our leaders. The first time I started reading heavily about AI was probably 2021, and I even tried to bring it up when I was in Congress, and people just said, "We have much bigger fish to fry." And I'm like, "Guess what? That's the fish
Do
that's gonna."
we?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, no, no,
do
no.
we
It was
really?
Andrew. This was in subcommittees where technology was the topic. I'm not kidding. Like, it drove me crazy. Um,
Well, thank
the
you for trying to make it happen.
Well, I didn't get very far. But my final question is the question I ask, I guess at the end every single time. It is, what are we ignoring at our own risk right now? What is something that you feel like is really simmering that we're ignoring that should be paid attention to?
Uh, So let's say you agree with us that AI displacing millions of Americans is the problem, or one of the biggest problems, which I believe it is. And then you have 80% of Americans who are for some regulation of AI. 72% are for universal basic income. Again, GDP is going to exceed 100,000 per head in the next, my opinion, 4 or 5 years. And so, what is keeping us from having some of these policy measures actually implemented? I think that's the elephant in the room that we ignore too much. And one of the things I try to convey to people is like, look, you know what else is 80% approval in America? Trying to get money out of politics. You can look that up. Like conservatives, progressives, everyone wants to get money out of politics, but then money's dominating politics in a way. So what is that disconnect? And I'm going to suggest that that disconnect is that popular will is getting refracted along ideological and party lines, and making it so that we're being falsely set up and divided against each other instead of being able to come together and get things done that most of us can agree on. You know what else conservatives and liberals agree on? Drugs are too expensive. Like our healthcare system, needs an overhaul. I've talked to very conservative farmers in Iowa and other states, and they're like, "Oh yeah, totally on board with that." So there's a massive trick being pulled on us that we're being taught. It's like, oh, you know why we can't get what we want? It's because of like this side or that side. It's like there's like this set of funhouse mirrors that's dividing us from each other. And if we could overcome that and come together and say, look, might not agree on everything, but we can agree on the fact that AI displacing millions of us is a very bad thing, and we should be taking these measures. Like that to me is the way out.
Right.
And the two party system in many ways is designed to stymie that.
Yeah.
If you look at it, because it's design. Like we're struggling through some of the most consequential design flaw in the history of Western civilization. Where we're living with it right now, we're suffering through it. And if we can resolve that design flaw, then many, many good things are possible. If we can't, unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of people on this call and calls like it that are left wondering. It's like, why is it that we, the American people, cannot get the policy that most of us want and that we deserve?
right? And we're seeing we just saw polls last week that identified that 70% of the country, it feels the same way about housing, that affordable housing is a problem. So now all of a sudden they've established a housing subcommittee, and that'll be a dogfight. But you're right. It's that if we had money out of politics and we had multiple parties, not just two, I think we'd be in a lot better space because you'd have to do a lot more coalition building and a lot less fighting over money. So,
Yes,
um,
but
I'll
right now it's like you don't need to solve the problem. You just need to be slightly less unlikable. And that,
Amen, my brother.
yeah,
Amen, my brother. Well, this has been a delight, Andrew. Folks, go ahead and take a peek at a really great affordability solution that's real and tangible, Noble Mobile. And Andrew, I just love chatting with you and wishing you the best success on your book. So we'll have you back again. Thanks,
Marie
everybody,
would
for
love
being
to be
here
back.
tonight.
Enjoy the heck out of this. Let's do more together. You're a rock
Okay.
star. I'm a
Oh,
huge fan.
I paid him to say that, you guys. No.
Oh no, very much not.
All right, guys, have a great day and have a good night. Be well.
Thank you all. Thanks for
Bye
joining us.
bye.
Let's do more.